learned from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it down, we gon' get it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming into October 12th, 2020, and the stock market is not going crazy. We are going to have an interesting week this week. We have earnings kicking off with the banks and some healthcare companies. However, considering last week, we are expecting a little bit more upside here, but there is nothing that should make us go too crazy except for leading into next week. So after we get some companies this week, we have earnings next week, and I think that's when things are going to go crazy. But we still have a lot of stuff to look at this week. And I'm hoping that if I say it's not going to be crazy, it does actually end up being crazy. So we have a lot to talk about. I want to explain what is happening in the stock market this week, everything to look for from global events, even the U.S., and there was some changes overseas that I can't wait to highlight and show you, but a few different things that we're watching this week. We got the plays, we got the keys, everything else we're looking at tomorrow. I have a few specific set of plays, and that is pretty much it. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed, and if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free $99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/the-stock-market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watch list come to life, and yes, if you have a bunch of random items in your house and a very distinct knowledge of where to acquire those items within 30 seconds, it could win you some money. So hopefully we see you there. We have a lot of fun on Fridays. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything. Post them below and source that info. Shout out to Chad, baby. And please do not forget the random account generator. So if you guys don't know, we started this account in the beginning of the year with $500. We make one play a week on this account, and how we select it is based on the comments in these videos. So on Sunday, Monday night watch list, we ask that you guys post a random option trade below, specific strike price, date, and everything. I will arbitrarily buy it with a random comment picker, and then we will see the performance of following random YouTube plays. So post that below. Keep it up to $100. More time, the better. And yes, thank you for all participating. So right off the bat, first thing is stimulus negotiation. This is what we saw last week. This is definitely going to dominate headlines again, I think, this week, but we did see it take somewhat of a turn this weekend. Even coming into the end of this week, if you guys even remember, it was a really weird couple of days that led us up to higher points, but the stimulus was going back and forth again. This was the first week after the Trump health scare. So there was a few different things going on, but now with the stimulus negotiations, even on Friday, we saw one last-ditch effort that it was doing a little bit better, but again, markets were already up anyways, but that seemed to have gotten negged throughout the day, and then finally we got updates over the weekend of what happened. It looks like they're trying to do a separate vote to get stimulus passed through, or just for the PPE, the Paycheck Protection, but it looks like both sides are kind of getting frustrated. Even the White House went up, and this bailout is still of a very large scale, so there was talks on it, but it seems like the fact that it's taking this turn into both bipartisan sides, kind of like, hey, we just need to pass something, and you even see Wall Street where the markets are at. It looks like the market really does think we're going to get a deal, and a deal soon. The real question is if it happens before or after the election, and either way, though, I think the market is just guaranteeing that it's going to come here, and it may not be as concerned with time. So these headlines will dominate again. I would watch for any surprise or even just surprises or developments that could change this. Another thing that's been talked about, this blue wave, and we're going to kind of see that a little bit poke its head this week, I think, but talking about if Biden did win. Again, there was a lot of that last week, but now you're kind of seeing that take a little bit more effect, but I want to see how that plays out, and we'll watch the market. And that's what I'm saying. Surprises, stimulus, this is hinting at what's going to happen, or even the price action of the market will let us know there. So watch out for that this week. Also, too, we are going to get the bank earnings. So you're going to get like Johnson & Johnson and a few other like decent-sized healthcare companies, but there isn't that many earnings this week. It's going to be the big banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. Those will be important. But then next week after this, you're going to start to get 100 companies a week, and now earnings season kicks off. It's going to be important. I hope you guys are ready for that, but we could even start setting up for plays on that. Now, finally, as far as global, the rest of this week, there is stuff with China I want to talk about. You are going to get some of their trade data, which can be important. We're going to have, I think, some retail numbers and industrial production out the U.S. There is an important date with the U.K. on October 15th with Brexit and kind of following through there. So there's all of that stuff. But China did make a big change this week. And one thing I want to highlight is the currency, and here is China's currency strengthening with this chart going down. And really, when we start to like pull this out, 2015 was a really, really big event. You guys have heard me talk about that play. We did like 2,000 into $250,000. This was a really big global volatile event. China was a part of that, but what it had to do with was the weakening of the currency. So now you have a big strengthening, and why I'm bringing this all up, because over the weekend now, this has been one of the biggest strengthening cycles for the yuan, and now this will affect oil. That's one thing I will say watch out for, but it has strengthened so much that China now has implemented a rule, or they rolled back a rule that they implemented in September of 2015 to combat one of their biggest weakenings. So pretty much the Chinese government is kind of, they want to bring back some weakening here, and this is just interesting from a macro perspective. Remind me about this tomorrow. We'll talk about it, but the fact that they're tinkering with this little rule is very, very important here. But as far as when it will come into fruition, we will see. But globally, we're going to get data from them this week, amongst other things. And now, like I'm saying, pairing this with oil, what's going on with the UK, these global events will be key to watch, I think, over the next few weeks. And then, depending on what happens domestically here, we will be able to see if there is something or a direction that can point to winners and losers in that instance. So it should be a simple and straightforward week. Again, there's going to be a few different things we've already been looking at. The question is going to be if there really is any surprises or not. And if not, we should have our work cut out for us with earnings. So I hope you're ready. But that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I have a few different plays actually from all different sets. I'm actually going to get I might get a little bit aggressive coming into this week. It all depends what the market throws at us. But first play, I'm going to be looking at Draftkings. We need to average down on that credit spread. I think I might have to just do an average and run. Pretty much, I'm going to look to make a big average down if the price goes against me bigger, and then I could just literally profit off a much smaller move to just get me out of there. So I'm still holding this Draftkings spread. We're down about $5,000 on it. My average credit is $1.24. So if I could find a way to raise that credit up to like $3 or something, and I only need the contracts to move $1, I might do that. But this is going to be the moment of truth this week on this play. Make sure you guys pay attention, especially if you've been watching the credit spreads, because how we maneuver this is going to be key. We talked about that last week, because depending on what was going on with some of the other plays, how we averaged down, decided to get out, it would make a really, really big difference between making a lot or losing a lot. So watch that play. That's the first one I want to watch, but I might even grab shares. And why I'm saying this, because they got upgraded. So a lot of people have been talking about it. I think they got a recent one over the weekend. We might see more, but people still like it. Again, I think it was just a bad timing with the NFL news, but the offering was at a higher price. The stock is trading below what they sold $1.5 billion at. I still like that. So it's getting near our entry price for the shares, but I may even consider picking up shares this week as well too. It will depend what happens with that credit spread, but it's going to put me in a good position, because essentially if I lose on the credit spread and it really, really does crater, I'm going to buy a ton of shares. If not, and it goes back up, if I miss out getting shares, I'll be able to get a pretty sizable amount of money back that I'm already down on. So that's the first one. And now in the same breath, again, there's a lot of companies that got these upgrades and that they've kind of been these runaway stocks, and I like them. And I want to see this week, some of them have earnings next week, and in the weeks after that, some of them have already reported, but there's a big set of these tech stocks. I'll show you when we get to the chart, you'll see them, but I like Peloton, Etsy, Snapchat, Pinterest. A lot of these stocks that have just been the ones that have gone up hundreds of % in this last few months, but now they're still getting upgraded, kind of being seen as these winners of COVID. I really, really, really like those. So I'm going to be looking at those. Again, just coming into earnings, we want to be able to see in time that moment that we get some of those earnings run up. So those are companies I want to be looking at, but we will see next in the spirit of kind of these broader plays. And hopefully you guys can see I have companies that I want with a broader thesis, but then also I'm looking at specific ones. This one, you could tweak this idea, you could tweak this idea as well too, but I want to look for Caesar puts. I'll show you on the chart, they're up, and then airline calls. Pretty much I kind of want to make a stimulus strangle in a way where we could get puts on the ones that are really attractive for the puts and then calls on the ones that are really attractive for calls. So what I'm saying by that, might as well just show you guys now, like if you come to Caesars, you take a look at them on the daily, they're up a lot. Even on the 1 year, you come up, they're pretty much back to these pre-COVID levels. So the put is a lot more attractive on downside if there isn't stimulus, or if they don't become a winner of the stimulus. You could see they have more meat on the bone for the downside. But then we come to UAL, it's literally 180. They're at the bottom. So it's like, I kind of want to do a straddle where it's like, hey, who would the real winners and losers be of the stimulus, and kind of picking and choosing. So I like that idea. I'm going to look for that tomorrow. I think that play will also have a lot of time to develop because it is all dependent on the news. So this back and forth whipsawing with the government, stimulus, Congress, that will kill premium. So timing is going to be key on a lot of these plays, obviously. And then finally, the final play, this one was a really, really weird one. I made this on Friday. I woke up and I had a dream about TrueCar, so I grabbed 1,000 shares. That's the weird type of investment. That's why none of this is a recommendation. Again, you guys can see the performance of investing on dreams and listening to homeless people. But I grabbed 1,000 of these shares and at $5 at $5.45, and then we also did a quick options flip, but that was pretty much it. We'll go over that play. TrueCar, I think, was the only other play that I made on Friday. Yeah, I grabbed 100 of the November 20th at 15 cents. They shot up. I sold 50 back at 47 cents. I made them free, so I'm still holding the other 5, but I just like that play. I think it's just very, very interesting. But I kind of like the value proposition considering it's at the lower end of the chart. I guess higher on the 1 year, but we will see. I don't really have too much faith in that play, but that's why most of it is in shares. We've already made it free. The key is shares. But as far as everything else, what I'll be looking for this week, there's other plays I like. Domino's. If you guys remember and why this one caught my attention, we grabbed the Domino's earnings continuations, but they're expiring October 16th. So I believe, is that this week? That makes sense. They're expiring this week, but there's a lot of contracts that pretty much got cheaper. So you can see this is a continuation. It's moving down, but I think I was a little too far out the money. I'm at the 350s. It's still at 390, but you can see it shot up a little bit at one point, but then it came right back down. But a lot of these contracts didn't go too crazy, or they would, and then they would depreciate fast. So I kind of like them on the put side, but if they have another third day of coming down, I think that'll be good. But I'm still in that play for the most part, just at break even. Probably will expire worthless considering that, so maybe even selling Domino's puts too would be a good one on credit spreads, because if this keeps dropping and those puts are getting expensive but ultimately not expiring in the money, that is what you want with a credit spread. So remind me about those too. But I also like Snapchat. We also have October plays. The near the monies are holding up, but the ones outside of the money are depreciating, and that's what I kind of like with these plays. Then watch Netflix too. This one's going to be earnings, and I believe they report next week too, or the week after this week, but they are usually one, they have a good earnings run up. I want to see even with credit spreads, but now in the name of all these earnings runaways, I know Etsy got to upgrade. I believe Twilio got to upgrade. Peloton, and then Pinterest and Etsy. Again, both Pinterest, I don't know if they got to upgrade, but I know Etsy did. But all of these are those kind of, they're kind of similar companies, or these kind of, they have brand image in a way. They're kind of niche markets, but they've been doing different stuff. I like them. But what I like about all of these plays is that given the last few weeks, there's been some winners and losers, and this is making some of those options cheaper. So even though now the stocks are going up and up and up and up, those out of the monies that didn't appreciate as much, those are still cheaper. So now it's going to be a high risk to reward, because if the momentum stops, you get clapped. There's a reason why those contracts didn't go up. But if this starts going crazy in earnings, there could be some pretty cheap opportunities still. So watch all of those. Watch FedEx. Again, that's another example. We have those FedEx. They're literally at break even. Same philosophy. We played it post earnings. We've held it for a while. So pretty much all I'm talking about is theta. A lot of these contracts have had time decay if they were out of the money. So they're either holding the same value or not, but there's still momentum. And this is usually what we like. You may miss the first leg, but if you could get the direction of the stock and not having to pay as much money, that's actually the best thing you can do. But control the balance, and we'll see. And then finally, Ulta doesn't have an upgrade or anything, but this is one of those post earnings that kind of reminded me of FedEx. We have some of those plays. And then Amazon, they have their Black Friday this week, or their Black Friday, Amazon day that they're doing. So that's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be good headlines. They could have a good earnings run up. I think this is just going to be a good one, both earnings run up and credit spreads. We did a pretty good one last week. So there is definitely some opportunities we'll see. And then finally, this was related to the Chinese thing. Again, UUP USD and TLT will be important, but I think this week I want to take a look at gold, especially with China. So if that Chinese currency stuff starts to move, I think this even just made our theory a lot more complex. That's why remind me about that China thing tomorrow. We'll talk about it, but I think Chinese currency might come back to play a bigger influence, and I think that influence is going to be felt through gold. So depending on what happens with the Chinese currency, I think we might see a leading or lagging indicator with gold. So I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're hydrated, healthy, ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you ready to close out the end of the year, baby. It's earnings season. Small good decisions. Control the balance. Control the budget. Get the launcher. But the gold loves you. I love you. And we'll see you in the morning. Let's go.